Hello, so today we are talking about Wish, which a lot of people consider to be the last great Cure record. Are they correct? I don't know, I suppose that it depends on who you ask. But I do think that more or less this ninth record kind of ends the golden period of The Cure. Of course, the album that came out before this one was Disintegration, which is their best record. It's freaking phenomenal. The band's records were selling better than ever and they were bigger than ever, and then they put out Wish and it was a massive hit. As I talked about for far too long in my Disintegration video, that album is absolutely incredible. It's able to create this dark and dreary atmosphere, and it's able to summon up all these feelings and emotions within me. And really, it's a very lush, full album. So the year after Disintegration came out, the band went back into the studio to create the Mixed Up album, which is a collection of remixes. But I think that the story goes that Robert Smith was basically in the studio working on all the remixes, but then the rest of the band got really bored, and so they ended up writing Never Enough. Never Enough is a pretty decent song. On the CD version of the album, you have the big mix, which I don't particularly like, but the actual single version, just called Never Enough, which shows up on their singles collection later on and on the Greatest Hits album, I think that version's really good. But that song's probably a lot more forward than any of the other tracks on Disintegration, just because of the fact that it's a more straightforward rock and roll track. This song features a large emphasis on guitars, and according to Robert Smith, this was the song that made him realize that he wanted The Cure to go back to being a guitar band. In essence, he wanted the guitars to be the main focus of The Cure again. And I think you can probably argue that this was the case with their earlier stuff, with Three Imaginary Boys specifically, because of the fact that there were only 3 guys in the band. But then of course, as you get more members, and as the band doubled in size essentially, with their peak being 6 members, that's a lot of different people to factor in. And so that's how you get a larger emphasis on the bass and the keys and whatever else. And so really it was this song, it was Never Enough off of the Mixed Up album, that made Robert Smith decide to go back to being a guitar band. And so really, if The Cure hadn't written Never Enough, then I don't know what Wish would have sounded like. Because I think that for all intents and purposes, Wish is one of their most guitar-driven albums. There are longer songs on it, and there are certainly some more atmospheric tracks, but not to the same extent that Disintegration had. This album came out in 1992, and so I think it actually kind of fits in with a lot of the alternative rock stuff coming out then. And a large part of that is just due to the fact that it focuses on guitars. Really, this is the closest thing that the band ever released to a shoegaze album. Robert Smith said that My Bloody Valentine were the first band to do what The Cure were trying to do, but better. And I don't really agree with that. You know, Loveless is a cool record, but I don't love it to the same degree that a lot of people do. But I do think that this record, Wish, really fits in with that. I think it fits in with some of the earlier Smashing Pumpkins stuff. And really, I do think it sounds quite different from all their new wave stuff, but at the same time, it's still The Cure. I will say that I don't feel like I have as much to say about this record as I do past records, and a lot of the reason why is because this is the 9th record put out by The Cure. And so as a result, it sounds like The Cure, and it is a Cure record, and Robert Smith covers a lot of the same familiar themes that we've already discussed. And so the thing about Wish is that it's a really great record. It's a really excellent record. It's one of The Cure's best. But at the same time, if you've listened to all their other stuff, then sometimes it sounds a little familiar just because of that lyrical content. I do think that if you look at The Cure's back catalog, then there are records that are very clearly dark and gothic, and then there are records that are very clearly poppy. So for instance, Disintegration, Bloodflower, 17 Seconds, Faith, Pornography, Songs of a Lost World, all of these are the dark records. And then all their other records fall into a more poppy, upbeat sort of phase. Three Imaginary Boys is a pop record, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is a pop record, Head on the Door is a pop record, Japanese Whispers is certainly a pop record, Wild Mood Swings fits into that, 413 Dream fits into that, I think. And sure, while these albums may have some darker tracks, on the whole, I think they're pretty upbeat records. But Wish is a record that I don't think fits super neatly into either category. If I was pushed, then I would say that Wish falls under the pop side of things. And I think that if you look at some of the advertising for the record, then you can tell that they were pretty clearly trying to go for more of the pop mainstream crowd. And so I do think that you have some very happy, obviously upbeat tracks like Friday I'm in Love or High, but at the same time you do have some darker stuff. You have To Wish Impossible Things, which is the title track essentially. You have Trust, you have Apart, End has some pretty dark lyrics. And so really, as I'm saying, this is a great record. This is a great album. I know sometimes people don't really pay that much attention to it because it was released in 1992, so it was their first record of the 90s, unless you count Mixed Up, which I don't. And again, it was kind of the last record of The Cure's golden period. But still, it's an album that shouldn't be dismissed. It's freaking great. And one last thing I'll say before we jump into the album proper is I feel like there's a pretty decent Pitchfork review on this album, which is crazy, I know, because Pitchfork sucks. But this review I think is actually really good. And one thing that it kind of highlights is the fact that there weren't any crazy things happening during the recording of this album. The band were really big and they were really popular, but at the same time you didn't have Robert Smith suffering a mental breakdown because he was about to turn 30. There wasn't really any in-band fighting. Drug use was still prevalent during this period, and There was an article I saw that said that Robert Smith had used heroin for a short period of time, and I believe that it would have been around this period during the disintegration wish period, but I can't really find any more details on it, so, you know, not everything was great, but at the same time, things were still really good. This was the Cure's peak. Robert Smith, during the time they were coming out, has said that probably like half of the different Cure records were going to be their last record. So for instance, he said Pornography was going to be their last record. He said Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me was going to be their last record. He said Disintegration was going to be their last album. He said the self-titled one was. He said Bloodflowers was. But with Wish, that wasn't really the case. It was just kind of the next record from the band. And all in all, things were pretty good. So with that, we will jump into the track listing proper, starting with track 1, Open. Open is one of the most interesting tracks on the album for a number of reasons, but a large part of it is due to the lyrical content. The Cure have talked about drug use before, such as a short-term effect in some of the other songs off Pornography. Icing Sugar is another song about drugs. But with track 1 on the album, Open, Robert Smith decided to tackle alcoholism and some of the social conventions that surround it. I really don't know what I'm doing here. I really think I should have gone to bed tonight. But just one drink and there are some people to meet. I think that you'll like them. I have to say we do. And I promise in less than an hour we will honestly go. Now why don't I just get you another while you just say hello? Yeah, just say hello, just say hello. And so in essence, this is a song about Robert Smith talking about alcoholism and saying that he has a problem, basically. Everyone kind of knows that rock stars typically have some kind of drug addiction or alcoholism. It's a very common thread that you see throughout all of these different stars, but not everyone knows how exactly it goes down. Not everyone knows how exactly it begins. One thing that goes almost always in hand with live music is drinking. I don't know that I've ever been to a live show where there hasn't been some sort of alcohol being served. If you go to a big show at a stadium, there's going to be beer, and if you go to a little show, a local show, usually those are at some kind of bar. Or if they're not at a bar, then it's a house party. Because I think that the thing about live music is that for most people, it's not a lifestyle. For most people, they'll go to a concert, you know, like once a month, sometimes once or twice a year. And so it's not something that they're living out every single day in the same way that these bands are. And so if you have a band that's touring like The Cure, they are constantly being in places where alcohol is served. In essence, they get up and go to work every day, and then they're given free beer. And so I have a brother who plays in a band, and so I've been going to a lot more local shows over this past year or two. And I don't drink, and my buddy Josh, who I've shown here before, he's in the band. And typically speaking, at any given show, we are like the 2 people I know who don't drink. But everyone else at any given moment is more than likely to have some kind of drink in their hand. And so whenever I listen to this song, this is what I think about basically, is I think of my experience witnessing all these local bands play. The thing is that, like I said, if you're a local band, then you're playing at a bar usually, and typically speaking, you'll get paid, but also you'll get some kind of beer tokens. There's just sort of an expectation that if you're going to be playing a live show, and if you drink, then you will be drinking. And the lyrics being read, it's basically the narrator being told that he needs to meet some people who they have to say that they'll like. Just one drink and there are some people to meet you. I think that you'll like them. I have to say we do. And so there are all these social conventions wrapped up around drinking, basically, and all these networking kind of conventions built into playing live shows. Because the thing is that you get gigs from knowing other bands. So a lot of the time you'll get a show because you're friends with someone who got a show, and then they'll just add you to the bill. And then if you don't want to be there, then drinking makes that easier. So I'm clutching it tight, another glass in my hand, and my mouth and the smiles moving up as I stand up, too close and too wide. And the smiles are too bright, and I breathe in too deep, and my head's getting light. But the air is getting heavier, and it's closer, and I'm starting to sway. And the hands all on my shoulders don't have names, and they won't go away. I think that's a really brilliant lyric, the hands on my shoulders don't have names, and they won't go away. I interpret that lyric as basically being about the idea that sometimes you're just guided by these impulses. You're driven by these bad habits, by these addictions. And as I've said, it's almost encouraged to drink whenever you're playing live. Because again, most people aren't going to a show every single night. For most people, it's a party, it's a special occasion. And so if you're playing in a band and you're doing it multiple nights a week, then it's very easy to slip into this habit of drinking. And more than that, it's really easy to slip into this habit of drinking excessive amounts. Most people drink responsibly, as the beer ads would say. For the majority of people, drinking doesn't really screw them up, but if you're doing it night after night after night after night, then that can have a severely detrimental effect on you. And then this part of the song's talking about being drunk. So here I go again, falling into strangers, and it's only just 11, and I'm staring like a child until someone slips me heaven. Take it on my knees just like 1,000 times before, and I get transfixed. That fixed. When he says someone slips me heaven, I think that's probably a reference to like drugs of some kind. I was reading some interviews with Trent Reznor from the early 2000s, which was whenever he got sober, and basically he talked about this idea that He was really an alcoholic more than anything else, but the thing is that whenever he got drunk, it was almost like an anything goes type situation. And so he was addicted to cocaine and used other substances and stuff, but it was really kind of alcohol that served as the gateway drug into him using these things. And so I think that's kind of what it's discussing here. And I'm starting to laugh like an animal in pain. I've got blood on my hands. I've got hands in my brain. I love that line. Here he talks about throwing up. The first short retch leaves me gasping for more, and I stagger over screaming on my way to the floor. And I'm back on my back with the lights and lies in my eyes, and the color and the music's too loud, and my head's all the wrong size. So here I go again. Yeah, I laugh and I jump and I sing and I laugh and I dance and I laugh and I laugh and I laugh. And I can't seem to think where this is, who I am, why I'm keeping this going. Keep pouring it out, keep pouring it down, keeping it going and keep pouring it down. And the way the rain comes down hard, that's the way I feel inside. And so this song has a lot of momentum to it. It has kind of this feeling that we need to keep it going. And really, I think that the thing to keep in mind during all this is that he didn't want to start drinking in the first place. If you go back to the opening lines, he said, "I really don't know what I'm doing here. I really think I should have gone to bed tonight." But as I'm saying, this isn't something I have experienced myself because I don't drink, but this is something that I've witnessed to a certain degree where drinking is very much encouraged in these sorts of situations. And I think that even depending on the sort of crowd that you're running with, I think that this sort of painfulness of drinking, I think that this sort of vomiting and passing out and whatever else, I think that this thing can even be encouraged to a certain degree. I was at a house party some months ago and I heard this crazy story basically where there was this guy talking and he said that he was at another house party and he blacked out and then he woke up with his arm in a cast. And it turned out that what happened was that he was just punching a concrete wall. And he was doing it like on a dare or for some stupid reason. And so he broke his hand and it was in a cast for several months. And then, you know, funny enough, he told that story with a beer in his hand. And so I really love these lyrics that repeat towards the end, and the way the rain comes down hard, that's the way I feel inside, basically implying that you don't want to be here, you don't want to be doing this. I can't take it anymore, this it I've become, this is it like I get when my life's going numb. I just keep moving my mouth, I just keep moving my feet, I say I'm loving you to death like I'm losing my breath. And all the smiles I wear and all the games that I play, and all the drinks that I mix and I drink until I'm sick, and all the faces I make and all the shapes that I throw, and all the people I meet and all the words that I know, makes me sick to the heart. Oh, I feel so tired, and the way the rain comes down hard, that's how I feel inside. And so I really love his delivery in this section because it has kind of a rushing stream of consciousness feel to it, like things keep on coming and going. Because again, if you're a member of the band, then you have to meet all the other bands and whatever and talk to all of them. And I think there's a reason why oftentimes bands will come back from the road and then they'll just write songs about being on the road, basically, because it's all they know. And I think that there are very clear and obvious reasons why so many rock stars develop substance abuse problems. In essence, that's just kind of the lifestyle. And again, I just want to repeat, most people don't have any kind of alcoholism. Most people who drink don't have any kind of real serious problem with it, but I do think that the people who it impacts very severely. And so I think that's what this song is about. And I've spent so much time on it because it's kind of a new way of viewing this. As I said, The Cure have talked about drug addiction before, but not really like this. And so this is kind of a crazy, grounded way to start the album. And I don't have as much to say about most of the other tracks as I do this one. Track 2 is High, which is a very cheery, upbeat, beautiful track. It has a lot of fun lyrics to it. When I see you sticky as lips, as licky as trips, I can't lick that far. But when you pout the way you shout loud, it makes me want to start. And when I see you happy as a girl that swims in a world of a magic show, it makes me bite my fingers through it. To think I could have let you go, and when I see you take the same sweet steps you used to take, I say I'll keep on holding you, my arms so tight, I'll never let you slip away. And when I see you kitten as a cat, meow! Yeah, this is another one of the many Cure songs that features references to a cat. But basically it's a song about being in love. I don't have all that much to say about it. It's one of the more upbeat, cheery tracks. It's one of the more silly tracks that The Cure has done. It's not unlike the Love Cats, I think. There is a version of the song called the Higher Mix, and I think I actually prefer it to the studio version because it has this sort of arpeggiating riff throughout it. But yeah, some songs by The Cure are very dark and depressing, and then others are happy and upbeat and cheery, and this is one of those that falls into the latter category. Track 3 is Apart, which is a very beautiful song. It's one of the sadder, slower songs on the record, and it's just about a couple who have grown apart. You know, surprise, surprise, the name is describing what the song is about. He waits for her to understand, but she won't understand at all. She waits all night for him to call, but he won't call anymore. He waits to hear her say forgive, but she just drops her pearl black eyes and prays to hear him say I love you, but he tells no more lies. How did we get this far apart? We used to be so close together. How did we get this far apart? I thought this love would last forever. And so it's a very beautiful song, and I think is awesome, but again, I just don't have that much to say about it. People growing apart sucks, but it's something that's bound to happen, I guess. Track 4 is from The Edge of the Deep Green Sea, which I think is a freaking phenomenal song. I think it's one of The Cure's best, and it's almost 8 minutes long. And to me, it strikes me as a song that's basically about a kind of push and pull sort of relationship. Every time we do this, I fall for her. Wave after wave after wave, it's all for her. I know this can't be wrong, I say, and I'll lie to keep her happy. As long as I know that you know, today I belong right here with you, right here with you. And so we watch the sun come up from the edge of the deep green sea, and she listened like her head's on fire. Like she wants to believe in me, so I try. I've always loved that line, like her head's on fire. And that's sort of the thing about this record, is that I feel like he covers a lot of ground that we've already touched on, but I feel like he's in his prime whenever he's doing it. I feel like at this point in time, Robert Smith is still a tremendous lyricist. Another line I love, I've never been so colorfully see-through head before. I've never been so wonderfully me, you want some more. And all I want is to keep it like this, you and me alone, a secret kiss, and don't go home, don't go away, don't let this end, please stay. And so I'm not sure if this song is about an affair or if it's about, like I said earlier, this sort of push and pull relationship where they get together and they break up and they get together and they break up. How much more can we use it up? Drink it dry, take this drug. Looking for something forever gone, but something we will always want. Why are you letting me go, she says. I feel you pulling back, I feel you changing shape. And just as I'm breaking free, she hangs herself in front of me, slips her dress like a flag to the floor, and hands in the sky surrenders it all. And so that part to me seems to be about how the narrator wants to slip away and break out of the relationship, but then the girl uses sex to hold them back. I wish I could just stop. I know another moment will break my heart. Too many tears, too many times, too many years I've cried for you. It's always the same, wake up in the rain, head in pain, hung in shame. A different name, same old game, love in vain, and miles and miles and miles and miles away from home again. And so it kind of reminds me of Open in the sense that it's about doing something that you wish you weren't doing. And it kind of goes back to a part where it's like this relationship that isn't meant to last, basically. It's this relationship that's like unhealthy and not good. But still, this song is absolutely tremendous. It's one of those that I can't really believe is 8 minutes long because it manages to keep my attention the entire time. And for the most part, it's just this one repeating guitar riff, and I think it's a great freaking song. There's a Robert Smith remix that he did in 2018 off the Mixed Up Extras that I think is really good. I think that's worth checking out. But overall, this song is like my second favorite on the record. I wish I had more to say about it because it's phenomenal, but I don't, so we'll move on to track 5. Track 5 is the most hated song on the record, Windy Time. It's kind of a funky rock song about the narrator visiting a prostitute and laughing away as she turned, you're everything but no one, like the last man on earth. And when I die, I said, I'll leave you at all. Door closes, leaves me cold, it doesn't touch me at all. And so again, it's the same sort of thing as Windy Time, where it's a relationship of some kind that isn't good for the narrator. Again, I feel like it's a very funky song, and it's one that I actually really love, but people hate it. People absolutely despise this song. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I think it's great. Robert Smith himself has said that he can't believe that a song like this made it onto the record, but he said that anytime he was coming up with the track listing for this album, if he didn't include this song, then the record felt soft. And those were his words. And I actually can completely see how that would be the case, because again, this is one of the more rock and roll style tracks. Windy Time's great. I don't care what people say. It's awesome. Track 6 is Doing the Unstuck, which Robert Smith, whenever I saw them live, he described as being a sister song to Friday I'm in Love. Friday I'm in Love is track 7. Both of these two songs kind of go hand in hand in a lot of ways. Doing the Unstuck says it's a perfect day for letting go, for setting fire to bridges, boats, and other dreary worlds you know, and let's get happy. It's a perfect day for making out, to wake up with a smile without a doubt. To burst, grin, giggle, bliss, skip, jump, sing, and shout. Okay, that was the best take of that. I had to do it like 5 times. To burst, grin, giggle, bliss, jump. To burst, grin, giggle, to burst, grin, giggle, bliss, jump. To burst, grin, giggle, bliss. To burst, grin, giggle, bliss. And so basically it's just another one of those euphoric, upbeat Cure songs. Fits in with High, it fits in with the Love Cats. There is some depth to it, I think, though, at the end. Let's get happy, but it's much too late, you say, for doing this now. We should have done it then. Well, it just goes to show how wrong you can be, and that's how you really should know that it's never too late to get up and go. Kick out the gloom, kick out the blues, tear out the pages with all the bad news, pull down the mirrors and pull down the walls, tear up the stairs and tear down the floors. Oh, just burn down the house, burn down the street, turn everything red and the dream is complete. With the sound of your world going up in fire, it's a perfect day to throw back back your head and kiss it all goodbye. And so basically it's a song about saying that, you know, if things suck, then just change everything. Just change everything and be happy almost. A lot of people really love this song, and it's one of those that whenever I think about it, I don't like it. But then whenever I listen to it, I'm like, oh, this song's pretty good. And it's one of those that I feel like maybe I don't give enough credit, because it is a solid track. I think it's one that Robert Smith wanted to be a single. I don't think the record company liked it, but I think it could have done well. Then the next track, of course, is Friday I'm in Love, which is one of The Cure's biggest hits ever. I don't care if Monday's blue, Tuesday's gray, and Wednesday's too. Thursday, I don't care about you, it's Friday I'm in love. And it's just kind of one of those that, like, I feel like I know, and I'm sure a lot of people also feel like they know it. I don't care if Monday's black, Tuesday, Wednesday, heart attack, Thursday, never looking back, it's Friday I'm in love. I've always thought that I don't care if Monday's blue is a reference to New Order with Blue Monday, and I had kind of a deranged train of thought where I was like, what's the opposite of Black Sabbath? Blue Monday. And I don't know if that makes sense to anyone except me and my buddy who laughed at it, but I don't care if Monday's blue. A lot of people really love New Order. I like Joy Division more, so make of that what you will. But Blue Monday is a freaking banger. But yeah, Robert Smith doesn't care if Monday's blue. But again, it's the same sort of thing as doing the Unstuck and High, where it's just a really happy, upbeat track. Robert Smith has kind of pointed to this one and said that it's the song that non-Cure fans like. And he said something to the extent that if this is your favorite Cure song, then you're probably not a Cure fan. It's just kind of a silly song. The music video for it's really fun because they just have a lot of different crap going around. I think my favorite thing about this song is actually the backstory behind it, where Robert Smith said that he wrote it in like 10 minutes, and then he was convinced that he was actually stealing the riff from somewhere. And so he went around playing this song for everyone that he knew, and he played it for record people, and he played it for all his friends and asked them if they had heard it, and they said no. And it literally took him like multiple weeks before he just kind of decided, okay, I guess I wrote it. And I think that's a freaking hilarious story, that you think that you've stolen a riff when actually you've just made something original. I feel like it's also the opposite of what usually happens, where someone steals a riff and they feel like they made it originally. But yeah, Friday I'm in Love is awesome. Dressed up to the eyes, it's a wonderful surprise to see your shoes and your spirits rise, throwing out your frown and just smiling at the sound, and as sleek as a shriek spinning round and round. Always take a big bite. It's such a gorgeous sight to see you eat in the middle of the night. People take issue with that lyric, but I think it's kind of fun. I think it's kind of cute. And really, I just think that this is a fun, upbeat, cheery, happy song. As I said before in my last video, Love Song is my favorite of the Cure's major pop hits, but Friday I'm in Love is great. Track 8 is Trust, which covers Familiar Ground. It kind of reminds me a lot of Apart, in pretty much every way possible. It's a really great song. I think it's better than Apart. But lyrically, it's just kind of, it's about the same thing, basically. There is no one left in the world that I can hold on to. There is really no one left at all. There is only you. And if you leave me now, you leave all that we were undone. And still the hardest part for you, to put your trust in me. I love you more than I can say. Why won't you just believe? And so it's about this sort of unrequited love. Basically, there's a mismatch in personalities, I would say. And it's another song written by Robert Smith that's about love not working out. That's all I got. Track 9 is A Letter to Elise, which is one of the best songs that The Cure ever wrote. This is my favorite song on the record. And again, it covers the same theme as Trust, basically. It covers a narrator's love not being returned. Oh, Elise, it doesn't matter what you say, I just can't stay here every yesterday. Like, keep on acting out the same the way we act out. Every way to smile, forget, and make believe we never needed any more than this. Oh, Elise, it doesn't matter what you do, I know I'll never really get inside of you. To make your eyes catch fire the way they should, the way the blue could pull me in if they only would, if they only would. At least I'd lose the sense of sensing something else that hides away. From me and you, there are worlds to part, with aching looks and breaking hearts. And all the prayers your hands can make, oh, I just take as much as you can throw. I believe that the idea for the song comes from Kafka's Letters to Felice, which I have a copy of. So yeah, it comes from Kafka's Letters to Felice, which isn't a book, it's just a collection of letters that Kafka wrote to a girl named Felice, who he was engaged to, I believe. And if you look at some of the dates on these letters, he was writing like almost every day. And I haven't read this book, but basically all these letters are just about Kafka being like, I love you, but I think Kafka had issues of his own. And so that's what this song strikes me me as, basically, where it's about the narrator feeling like he loves Elise, but Elise isn't exactly returning that love. And then eventually he kind of realizes that things aren't meant to work out between them. Yesterday I stood and stared wide-eyed in front of you, and the face I saw looked back the way I wanted to. But I just can't hold my tears away the way you do. Elise, believe I never wanted this. I thought this time I'd keep all of my promises. I thought you were the girl I always dreamed about, but I let the dream go. And the promises broke, and the make-believe ran out. And so yeah, it's just a very heartbreaking song of things not working out, you know, not unlike Pictures of You. I really love the final lyrics to this song, and every time I try to pick it up like falling sand. As fast as I pick it up, it runs away through my clutching hands. But there's nothing else I can really do. There's nothing else I can really do. There's nothing else I can really do at all. And I think those are really important lyrics. Basically, it's just that feeling that things are getting away from you, that things aren't working out. Back in the early 2000s, MTV would put on these icon shows where basically they would have all these different bands cover an icon. So they had one for Metallica, for instance, where they brought in all these different people to cover different Metallica songs. And they did one for The Cure where they had all these different bands cover Cure songs. And so if you've ever heard Deftones' cover of If Only Tonight We Could Sleep, that's where it's from. But Blink-182 did a cover of the song where basically they turn it into a Blink-182 song, and I actually kind of love it. I think they did a really great job with the cover, though I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to check it out. This was the last single released from the record, and Robert Smith has said before that this song never made it into their live repertoire, but he's not really sure why, and I'm not really sure why either. I think it's freaking brilliant. I would much rather hear this song than like some of the others they're more likely to play off of Wish. I would rather hear this song than High. I would rather hear this song than Friday I'm in Love, even though I love that song. But yeah, this is a totally underrated song. I think it's awesome. Track 10 is Cut. It's about the same sort of thing, a relationship not working out. If only you'd never speak to me the way that you do. If only you'd never speak like that. It's like listening to a breaking heart, falling sky, fire go out and friendship die. I wish you felt the way that I still do. And Cut, I think, is a really freaking great upbeat track. I think it has the same problem that Screw does off of The Head on the Door. And what I mean by that is that it's a great song, but it just isn't as good as some of the others on the album. I love this song a lot, and I think it's closest to Windy Time, instrumentally at least. But again, it's just one of the last tracks on the record, and it doesn't get as much play as some of the others on this album. Track 11 is To Wish Impossible Things, which is the title track of the record. And it's a really beautiful, almost simple sounding, heartbreaking track. It basically just speaks to the idea that sometimes you have these dreams and they can never come to pass. Remember how it used to be when the sun would fill the sky. Remember how we used to feel those days would never end. Remember how it used to be when the stars would fill the sky. Remember how we used to dream those nights would never end. It was the sweetness of your skin, it was the hope of all we might have been, that filled me with the hope to wish impossible things. And so basically it's speaking of a sort of innocence, of a sort of naivety even, maybe of youth. And then the second half of the song says, but now the sun shines cold and all the sky is gray. The stars are dimmed by clouds and tears, and all I wish is gone away. All I wish is gone away, all I wish is gone away. Kind of a short song in terms of lyrical content, but it's very beautiful and ethereal sounding. It actually reminds me of The Echoing Green by William Blake. I think that actually kind of covers the same ground as this song. And so this is kind of what I mean whenever I was saying earlier that this song has both a mix of dark and light tracks. You have darker tracks like this one, To Wish Impossible Things, but then only a couple songs before you were listening to Friday I'm in Love and doing the Unstuck and High. And so that's why this record has always been hard to categorize, because you do have the darker tracks, but then also you have the lighter tracks. This song is definitely a highlight. It's great. And then the final track of the album is fittingly called End. And I think that End is almost a response to some of the criticisms I have of the album, namely that it covers a lot of the same lyrical ground as past records. It's really kind of a dark song, and it took some time for it to grow on me, but I think it's great. I think I've reached that point where giving up and going on are both the same dead end to me, are both the same old song. And then I don't remember how exactly it goes, but he does sing do 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 throughout the track, which I think is sort of a self-referential thing, because he talks about singing the same old song, and then he does the do 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 do, like, and he does it throughout a ton of Cure songs. He makes that sort of melodic sound in like Pictures of You, and he does it in Windy Time, and I can't think of any others, but I know he does it in a billion other Cure songs. I think I've reached that point where every wish has come true, and tired disguised oblivion is everything I do. In other words, he's kind of accomplished all his goals, and so whenever you've accomplished all your goals, what are you left with? And I like that line where every wish has come true, because it kind of it fits in with To Wish Impossible Things, because you have one song, To Wish Impossible Things, which is about not getting your wishes fulfilled, and that song is immediately followed by End, which talks about having your wishes fulfilled, and in either scenario, the narrator is not happy. Tired Disguised Oblivion is Everything I Do is a lyric I really love. In essence, he's just going on because that's what there is for him to do, and so this kind of strikes me as a song about burnout. It also reminds me of 39 off Bloodflowers, which is a song about how the fire is almost out, he says. Please stop loving me, please stop loving me, I'm none of these things. And those lines basically are just a reference to the idea that people love Robert Smith as a performer, people love him as an artist, and he knows that people who have never met him develop these emotional attachments to him and to the band. And he said before that you can love a band and you can love an album, you can love a song, you can love the music, but you should never love the performer. And so really he's just saying that you shouldn't fall in love with all these rock stars, you shouldn't fall in love with him. And this is a really depressive song. I think I've reached the point where all the things you have to say and hopes for something more from me are just games to pass the time away. And so that idea where all the things you have to say and all the hopes for something more from me are just games to pass the time away, basically he doesn't feel like he's doing anything meaningful at this point in time. It's just this idea that what he's doing, what he's making, yada yada yada, it's all just... he's just kind of doing it because it is what there is to do. And I think it's really easy to become complacent. I think it's really easy to kind of look back on your past successes and to feel like you've done your work almost. And I think it's really easy to get this feeling that you've kind of done all there is to do. But really, I don't know that that's ever the case. I think that it's easy to get burnt out, and I also think it's easy, especially if you're not constantly taking in new influences, if you're not constantly doing new things and trying to grow as a person, I think it's really easy to feel like you've accomplished everything you want to. And this record came out on Robert Smith's 33rd birthday, and so he is double that age now. And so he's lived for quite a bit longer, but actually if you look at his life, he's put out, I think, 5 albums after this one. And so basically The Cure did more work, they did more music in the year 1979 to 1992 than they did in the, 25, 30 years after. And of course, throughout all this, The Cure have been playing live shows, but they haven't been producing new music regularly. And so that's actually kind of sad for me to think about, because I think that these dudes are brilliant songwriters, and so it makes me sad that they haven't been producing new stuff constantly throughout this last period of time. And I also think that is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you feel like you have nothing new to give, then you won't give anything new. If you feel like you've done and said all that there is to do and say, then you're not going to try even. I really love this last section of the song. I think I've reached the point where every word that you write of every blood dark sea, in every soul black night, and every dream you dream me in every perfect free from sin, and burning eyes and hearts on fire are just the same old song. And so I interpret that as basically just saying that he feels like he's repeating himself almost. And so I really think that this is the album where The Cure's lyrical problems kind of begin, in the sense that Robert Smith doesn't really break new ground after this. He approaches things differently and he does it in new ways, and I think Songs of a Lost World actually have some, I think there are some really interesting lyrics on that one. And I think Bloodflowers has a lot of lyrics that are worth dissecting, but I feel like for the most part, Robert Smith doesn't introduce too many new ideas after this. The very first Cure video I did, and the very first video I did covering music, was actually on the Cure's self-titled record. I filmed that video a little over 2 years ago, and basically the idea was that it was a weird record. At the time I put that record out on YouTube, it was the only video on the entire platform covering the Cure's self-titled record. Even back then, before I talked about all the other Cure's past records, I felt like that was an album that didn't break any new lyrical ground for The Cure. I feel like it covers a lot of the same themes and ideas. It talks about relationships and falling in love and then being unhappy whenever you're in a relationship and then breaking up and whatever. And so really I do think that this record concludes the golden era of The Cure, but I do think that this is sort of where the cracks start to show. And it's one of those things that you can only tell whenever you're looking back, because again, this was The Cure's 9th record, and it's freaking great. I think it's one of their best, and so you wouldn't know that the cracks were beginning to show unless you knew that Wild Mood Swings was gonna suck and that they would struggle to release good albums after that. And so Wish, I think, is a really great record, but I think that it actually could have been even better. The Cure during this period were just on fire, and so if you look at some of the B-sides and if you look at the demo tracks that were released on the Anniversary Deluxe edition of the album that came out some years ago, you'll see that there are just so many great freaking songs. A lot of people have this idea that the album was going to be darker than it currently is if you look at some of the B-sides, but then Boris Williams wanted the album to be lighter so that way it would be more commercially successful. I don't know if Boris deserves the blame, because because honestly it could just be that, like, you know, the rest of the band wanted to release something that was more upbeat after Disintegration, or it could just be that the band wanted to release something that had a more even mix of dark and light. But really, there are some freaking phenomenal B-sides that were left off this album. The best one, I think, is The Big Hand. This is a song that at first, whenever I heard it, I thought it was about God, but I think more likely than not, I think it's about drugs. I've seen before that this song could be about heroin, because heroin is often called H, and hand starts with H. The Big Hand makes all of your favorite things, like all your dreams go small and all your friends run away, until your memories fail and the words don't fit. I like that reference to words because it goes back to Disintegration. But the way the Big Hand smiles, you just won't care about it. The Big Hand makes all of your favorite things, like all your days run out and all your hopes disappear, and your smiles just stop and your eyes go dead, and the shadows start to crawl in the back of your head. But when the Big Hand speaks, it's like fireworks in heaven, so listen, don't think, and wish for nothing at all. And so basically the Big Hand strikes me as a song about self-destructive tendencies. Like I said, I think it's about drugs. I think it's about drug use. In some ways, it actually returns to Fear of Ghosts off Disintegration, just the sense that you won't care about what things you're losing. If you give everything to the Big Hand, whatever it is, then, you know, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose all your time and all your days. But when the Big Hand speaks, it's like fireworks in heaven. Essentially, the high is so great that the lows don't matter to you. I know that this is a song that Boris Williams should be blamed for not having on the album, because he said that if this song was on the album, then he would leave the band. But it doesn't even matter, because basically the album came out and then he left shortly after the tours for this record were done. But yeah, this is a really excellent song that 100% should have been on the record. This Twilight Garden is another one that should have been on the record. It's a freaking immaculate, amazing masterpiece. I think it's like a better version of To the Sky, honestly. I lift my hands from touching you to touch the wind that whispers through this Twilight Garden. Turns into a world where dreams are real. No one will ever take your place. I am lost in you. I lift my lips from kissing you and kiss the sky-wide deepest blue, and slow the moon swims up into your golden words for me. No one will ever take your place. I am lost in you. Yeah, this song is just gorgeous. If you don't know it, go and listen to it. It's freaking amazing. Play is another really great song that I think probably should have been on the record, but it's a darker song, and so I do wonder if that's maybe why it was left off. Day after day I let you down, promise to change, then change my mind. And every time I promise you it will all be fine. It won't be like this next time. The days you wait turn into years, always wait, helpless tears, hopeless nights and all the fears. It will always be like this. And so this is another one about a relationship fading and cracking and decaying because someone promises to change, but they won't. Halo, I think, is a really pretty one. I really like it a lot. It fits in sort of with the happiness of High. Scared as You, I think, is really good, but I do think it's one of the lesser B-sides. You know, those things I said, all those things that made you cry, I didn't really mean that stuff. All I ever really mean when I scream and shout the way I do is I don't know, I really don't, just the same as you. And so I guess it goes back to love song, you know, no matter what words I say, I will always love you. A Foolish Arrangement is one of the best freaking songs The Cure ever wrote. It's like so fun. I don't know what it's about. Christabel strips and slips like a dream, breaking ice with arms that gleam with pain. Disdain. She throws her head and glides against the stream, throwing me her bravest smile. Defiant, glittering, shivering guile. Catching a cold is quick this time, but fish may take a while. Christabel dips and slips from me, and hand pushed deep inside is suddenly free. Triumphant, reluctantly, struggling 6 legs held up for me to see. Don't be scared, it's nothing new. It's the same old game, only fun with 2. So I don't know, is it about sex? Maybe. Is it about drugs? Probably. Probably, honestly. But A Foolish Arrangement is a freaking banger. Whenever they dropped the anniversary edition of this album back in like 2022, I think, they included a bunch of cool demos. My favorites I would like to single out are Miss Van Gogh, which Miss Van Gogh is freaking great. I don't know what the lyrics would have been, but like the song is so catchy. I love it. I love the bass line. I love everything about it. Now Is the Time is also a banger. Same thing. I imagine my own words in my head, but Now Is the Time is another one that I freaking love. I think it's great. There's also the Lost Wishes EP, which was a cassette tape that came out like a year after Wish. Basically, it was a series of 4 instrumental tracks from the Wish sessions. It's pretty good. It's worth checking out, I think. I don't know how to say it properly, but Uyeya Sound, I guess. That track was used as the basis for Underneath the Stars off of 413 Dream, which came out, like 16 years after this record. So that one's really good, and The Three Sisters is also really good, though it sounded really familiar to me whenever I was listening to it yesterday. And someone said that the bass line is the exact same as another Cure song, A Japanese Dream. The overall though, if you listen to any of these demos, they're all pretty great. Frogfish is kind of weird. It's kind of a weird, funky, jazzy thing with horns. But really, this was a great period for the band, just on a creative level. All the demos for this album are great, and all the songs for this album are great. There aren't really any songs that I hate or utterly dislike. You know, I don't love some of the demos, but that's probably because they're unfinished. But really, whenever I was looking through these tracks, I just, you know, I felt that if Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me got a double album, then I think Wish could have been a double album as well. And so I was thinking about this. In the early 90s, it sort of became a thing for bands to release like B-side compilations. You had the Smashing Pumpkins who released Pisces Iscariot, and you had Nirvana who released Incesticide. And it's kind of surprising to me that The Cure didn't do something similar, just considering the wealth of great B-sides they had at this time. Of course, all the B-sides were later compiled in the Join the Dots compilation, but really most people aren't going to listen to that, which is a shame because there are some real gems. There are a lot of songs on that compilation that deserve to be on studio records. And so Wish is one of those Cure records that I think would have benefited from a somewhat different track listing. But honestly, as it stands, it's still freaking phenomenal. I think it just could have been better. As for ratings, I think I'm going to have to rank this as my 4th favorite Cure record of the ones we've discussed. And this is actually something that's been on my mind for a long time because it means rating this one above Faith in 17 Seconds, which I'm not sure about, honestly. I don't think this album is as good as Disintegration or Pornography or The Head on the Door, but I do think it's a really solid record. I think this record's really great, I think it's really excellent, and I think even though the cracks are starting to show, I think that if you want a record that kind of sums up the Cure the best, I think this is a decent one. Again, I don't think this is the best Cure record, that's Disintegration, but I do think that if you want something that kind of touches on every part of their style, I think that this is a pretty good submission. So for recommendations before we leave, of course, I have to recommend Susie and the Banshees. You know, Susie and the Banshees are awesome. Robert Smith played with them, but I think they were doing some really good stuff around this period as well. Peep Show is probably the record that I would recommend if you like Wish. I already mentioned these records, but if you like Wish, then check out Loveless by My Bloody Valentine and check out Siamese Dream by the Smashing Pumpkins. I would also recommend Villains by Queens of the Stone Age. A lot of people don't like that record, but for some reason, it's coming to mind whenever I'm thinking of this record. I would recommend Womb by Purity Ring, which is a really weird one to recommend, but I think it kind of fits in for some reason. I think it might be the lyrical content that is causing me to think of it more than anything else, but Stardew off of it I think is freaking phenomenal, and I don't really know if it fits in that well because it doesn't fit in instrumentally with this album, but maybe there's someone else out there who's a Purity Ring fan and who will kind of go, oh yeah, I get it for some reason. Again, I don't know why it's coming to mind, but it is. And so, I guess that's what I got. Thank you for watching me talk about Wish for a bit. I'm going to the gym now, so thank you for watching, and goodbye. Every single girl I've ever met who reads is like, oh my goodness, you gotta read Pride and Prejudice. And so, anyways, there you go.